You have to fail and you have to mess up and you have to make the mistakes to get to the point where you're like, oh, I can do anything. I mean, I'm very confident in like who I am now that I like tell them all the time. I'm like, yeah, I got it. I can do anything. It's fine. Like, I'm not worried about it. So I just think that as long as you're okay with the results maybe not being what you envision, you can get through anything. You can do anything.
On the show, we're going to sit down and talk about the metamorphosis that happens when you become a leader.
We'll share our biggest wins and our losses and interview other leaders to find out how they stay in charge without losing their minds.
I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Zach. Welcome to the Who's in Charge podcast. Yeah, sweet. So what's brewing with the Brewers? And so I am super excited. We've known Eric and been able to follow Eric a lot kind of through some of the professional journey. And I get really excited when I can see people that have been in the business for a long period of time. I think there's, especially in the day of social media, like people can gain, some quick influence out there. But when you can look behind the scenes and see people that have been doing the business, doing what you want to do for a long time and successful at it, my ears always perk up and I say, hey, how can you get closer to these people? How can you learn more? And I think that only is half of our life, right? And it's probably, quite honestly, the least exciting thing about us or the least interesting thing about us, often behind the scenes and what's going on at home, is oftentimes the most important and most exciting. So really excited today to have you guys both on to be able to hear a little bit more kind of about your story and what got you guys together and when you guys knew that you were just right for each other. We could start there and kind of move forward.
Yeah, tell us your love story. How did you guys meet?
Go ahead, honey.
We met at a bar.
It's a good start.
Yes, yeah. And the short version is, and I'll let you decide if you want to dig a little bit deeper. I had reached a phase of my life where I felt more important than I was. And I expected to be treated a certain way at my favorite restaurant and bar. One of those was when there was a line, it didn't impact me. So this was like some evening, not too late. Me and a couple of my friends walked in. It was busy. And I made myself visible enough to Sonia, who was working at the bar, that I should have certainly been moved to the front of the line. She did not agree. And when I did get to the front of the line, I passive aggressively voiced my frustration. She aggressively responded. And I think she threw my money. So my approach was, I'll give her whatever, say $100 for a $20 tip. Her response to her, a $20 tip, like, hey, here's enough evidence for you to know that you should move me to the front of the line next time. I think she crumbled it up and threw it back at me and called me a name. And so I waited in the line and ended up empty-handed.
I knew I liked you.
So that is how we met. That was the moment that I knew I needed to ask her out. I like that spiciness, and that was met with a lot of resistance as well. So I got told no twice in the first 30 minutes of our first meeting.
You asked, but then you asked twice within the first 30 minutes, which is also pretty aggressive.
Yeah. Now, in true Brewer fashion, I was able to close the deal.
Of course, would expect nothing less.
I got a conditional yes from her eventually, and then I just, had to do my part and stay around long enough and behave enough that eventually, I don't know, it was like a month later, or I earned my date. So that's my version of how we met.
I got to hear the other side.
Right.
It's actually very accurate. I was not very friendly to Eric when we first met. I was a bartender and college student at that time. It was a very busy evening. I believe that everybody has to wait their turn. And I felt the same way about Eric. He did not agree. So I just made sure he knew that I don't operate that way. And he did try to overcompensate with a tip, thinking, that might make it different for me. It didn't. So now here we are.
So why did you accept the date? What was it that made you say, okay, maybe I will go out with this guy?
Do you see that face? No, I'm just kidding. Tell your story.
He was very persistent. We ran into each other a handful of times in different areas and like different places. And at first I like kind of thought he was stalking me. So I was a little like nervous, but he wasn't, I don't think. Were you stalking me?
Doesn't matter at this.
Oh, okay.
Kind of be fun to find out this way.
So it was like normal to see him. And then once I started talking to him a little bit without me using profanity or being mean to him, it turned out he was a nice guy. And, we had more in common than I thought at that time. And we went on our first date, and he was a true gentleman, and we had a really, really good time. And I think probably since then we've been together very regularly in some capacity. So,
yeah, for many years. How long have you all been married now?
12 years married, 18 together, 17 together.
Nice.
There's some street cred there. Like that's a legit amount of time, to be together. What I find so interesting about just kind of the entrepreneurial journey is really the entrepreneurial couple. And like Zach said, there's so much from the outside that we see, like the business growth potentially and like what people say on stage or the highlight reel. But what I find super interesting is how it all works together and how we find our other half and how we make that relationship work in kind of a difficult environment of high stakes, like investment into this business and growing something. It's just kind of this non-traditional setup from a career standpoint, but let alone from a personal standpoint, because there's so much pressure and like things to bring home to digest together. So I'm curious to hear what your perspective is on that, like how you handle the stress of building something together at home as well, and like start creating some balance and some understanding between you two.
Well, just to clarify, Eric, where were you at in business when you guys met? So 18, were you on billboards everywhere, or where were you at?
I had a partner 18 years ago. I was on billboards, which is why I expected to be moved to the front of the line. I mean,
right.
Anybody else here on billboards at that time, 18 years ago? I don't think so, but
wasn't your face though.
Whatever. So yeah, I was just getting started back then, which is why I was in the bar. Starting a business will drive you to drink. And it was a very different time for me back then, obviously. That was before we grew this wonderful family. And I mean, honestly, I was there because business was freaking hard. And that was a way for me to disconnect. And most of the people, that I was running around with back then didn't have the same, I wasn't in a mastermind back then. So getting out and dancing and listening to music and being around people was like a disconnect for me. And it was a good way for me to be able to sort of forget about the pressure of business in that particular time. So yeah, I was just starting my journey when we met back then. Which frankly, I'm sure Sonia will have a perspective, but that put way more pressure on any relationship that I had back then, because I carried that with me. So when we first met, she accepted me at my worst. I mean, I was obviously drinking back then. I was at the bar. Business had the best of me. Like it literally dominated my priorities back then. It was the only thing that mattered. So yeah, we sort of got together when the business was just starting, and I was under, tremendous pressure and wasn't quite experienced at all in how to deal with it. So I was just managing the best way that I knew how.
Sonia, how did you come alongside that, and what was your perspective on the beginnings and the pressures of business?
I mean, the one thing I can really attest to is Eric is very honest and very transparent with his like stage presence today. We really came up from the trenches together. So he was starting his business. He would go to work at 7:00 in the morning and sometimes wouldn't get back until 9:00 at night. But I think we were both really hungry and driven then. I was in my undergrad program. I was working a full-time job and bartending on weekends. I think it makes it really easy to navigate somebody's busy schedule when your schedule is really busy too.
True.
And I think we both kind of understood each other and respected each other and our hustle at that time. And it makes things so much easier today because we can both truly look at each other and look at, how far we've come and the growth that's come through it. Eric has just always worked extremely hard, and that's something I respect and come from with my family and my background. So it never really bothered me in that sense. And it was, when we did start dating and we were together, it was like an honor to be supportive and help him through that, and watch him, win. And there were a lot of fails, but he would always fail forward. Like he never let anything knock him down for too long. And it's inspiring. So it helped me in my career and, go to grad school and do other things. And it kind of just put things in perspective for me too, in order to see that, not everything comes easy no matter what industry you're in. And the hard work does pay off.
I think it's so transformative to have an inspiring partner, but then also a supportive partner all in one. And I feel like when you're going through this and building things, and just like you both, Zach and I both had our own career path that like interwove with each other's, and a lot of which was entrepreneurial. And we both had to be those different things for each other at different times. Like I'm going to just be the inspiration. And then sometimes I'm going to be the support. Right. And like, you got to be both those things for each other to really push through. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Now that you guys are both sitting next to each other and you can elbow him, right? And goad him a little bit. My question for you is how did you weave your career into this too? So Eric is launching his, you meet at the bar. He's in the middle of his hustle phase, and you're a student and working and making things happen and have your own career path, dreams, etc. How did you guys weave this together?
Well, I went to school for business and finance. So I always thought that I was going to be in the financial industry. That was like my goal and what I like aspired to do. So I ended up in insurance for a really long time. And at that time, Eric didn't have multiple real estate teams. He had salespeople. So from time to time, his salespeople would call me. I would get policies for them in order for their deals to close. So it we worked together in some capacity, but not much. And then I went from working in insurance to a supervisory role, and then into being a business analyst, which is where I wanted to end up. So super excited, get the role I want. I'm where I want to be. And then, in this process, we get married and have a baby. And then, that's fine. I have my baby. I'm ready to go back to work. And she scoots for the first time at my mom's house. And I call Eric in shambles. I missed it. Maya moved. I wasn't there. I'm the worst mom ever. And he says to me, he said, I told you, but you don't have to work. Raise our children. There's something to be said about that. I would rather you be the one doing it. At this time, Camden is probably 10. He doesn't have to go to after school care then. There's always time to work. There's always things that you can do. Okay. So I give 1 month's notice. My company at that time was wonderful and let me work from home for that month. And then I stopped working altogether and raised our 6 kids until recently.
6 babies.
That's a lot of kids.
My goodness.
Beautiful babies.
Yes, they are beautiful.
Yes. So very fortunate. And during that time, I was, blessed enough to see Eric just conquer everything and grow and be able to make sure that, you know, when he had a long day at work or a new project or CG, that the home front was good and everything was taken care of there. So we didn't have to worry about it and could focus and be dialed in on what he needed to do. So we both had our jobs and our roles. And recently, our youngest, Eric Jr., just started preschool 2 days a week. And I, in 11 years, have not had 4 hours a week free. So I looked at him and I'm like, I have 4 hours a week free and I don't know what to do with myself. And he's like, okay, well, what do you want to do? And I said, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And he's like, you would be phenomenal. Do it.
Yeah.
And so I took 6 weeks to study and took my tests, and I called him from the parking lot and I'm like, you're not going to believe it. I passed. And here we are.
Congrats. That's awesome.
And now you have an office in the same build, like the same office space, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. What is it like working next door to each other?
So fun. Although Eric comes and bothers me a lot. Like, I like to focus and he's very distracting.
You guys have separate offices?
Yes.
I think that is the key to success. You need to have your own space for sure.
Yeah.
And so did you set him some clear guidelines as well? It sounds like in the beginning of the relationship, you were able to set some clear guidelines, probably similar all the way through, even as you know, kind of like you said, separated some of those roles to like, all right, I'm going to stay home. This is kind of my lane. You're in charge of those decisions. Was there some clear guidelines there?
I mean, I think we always have like boundaries that we both respect and understand. And I mean, like, we have unspoken, like, non-negotiables. I think Eric knows, like, for me, mom always comes first. So, you know, if it's a game or a practice or something that my children need, an event at school, I still substitute teach at their school. I teach junior achievement at their school. And thankfully, with the position I have the flexibility to do that. And I have all of his support. Like, he's never been like, oh, well, you need to walk this property and not go pick Maya up today. So I think it's just really nice to have somebody that supports the fact that I want to still do other things and try to grow my business as well and become, you know, a successful real estate agent, but that I don't have to put my family on the back burner to do that. And we really divide and conquer. He makes sure that if I need this support, you know, he schedules his time to help me get the girls to soccer or get somebody to basketball or do whatever we need to do. We're dividing and conquering this weekend in 2 different states for a basketball tournament. So we just work really well as a team.
What's the best way that you found to communicate like that? For Zach and I, because we're similar, like our kids are a little bit older, but they're in sports and we both have our jobs and we're juggling lots of things. And sometimes the way we communicate is just with the calendar. Like, we put on the calendar, that is like our source of truth. What about you guys? How do you juggle this and communicate well?
Yeah, I think we're probably much better at it now than we were in the beginning. And I think any form of communication is a step in the right direction. So I think the tendency is a lot of times for us, just as couples or humans, is to assume that the other person knows what's expected of them or know what we need. And I think one of the things that I've learned in business and marriage is it's really hard to over communicate. Like, you almost cannot. So I think we just do, you know, for both of us, it was probably hard for both of us to ask for help. We're both pretty assertive, confident people, and try as hard as we can to carry the load of the world on our shoulders. It's just, I think it's a natural sort of behavior for driven entrepreneurial people. And everybody reaches a limit. And particularly in a close relationship like a marriage, it's easy for us to you know, place the blame in the hands of the other person. Like, I'm tired and it's because I did all of these things and I didn't have as much as your help as I could have used. And now I'm mad or I feel a certain way. And then that either comes out right away and that's good, or it comes out a week, a month, a year later, and it's, you know, a bigger deal than it would have been in the beginning. So I think one thing I've personally learned, and I can see evidence of with Sonia, is we just say it, like, hey, I need help. And it's not optional. Like, you know, I know you might have something going on, but I would ask that you cancel it, or could you somehow reprioritize? And it might feel aggressive in the moment. But the alternative is way more risky, which is to literally hope that someone will read my mind. And that just doesn't normally go well in my experience. So I think we've just done a better job of being direct and asking for help when we need it, and being flexible when that's required. Like there's sometimes I'm sure she asks for help and I push back and say how important it is. She goes, well, not that big of a deal, but if you have something going on, it's something I can handle. But then there's times where it's like, well, how big? It's a really big deal. I can't be in two places at one time. And she's always really big about just us being always present for our children. So like she's very reluctant to have anybody, like even like carpool to a practice. Like in her eyes, which I admire, is like she just always wants our children to know that we're present, we're around, we're here. And that took some adjusting for me, because that wasn't quite my experience when I grew up. So I was just accustomed to being a little bit more on my own at a younger age. But I like being that. I like that we are very present. I'm not even sure, like we are literally up our kids' asses. Like in every form of the word, like encouragement, accountability, support, teaching, and it requires a stretch on our part. Like we have, with her just starting her real estate career, she has a bunch of customers and, clients and listings and all kinds of stuff. So it requires us to stretch ourselves a little bit, but I'm super thankful for that. Cause I don't know that anything outside of each other or our children would get that response out of me. I don't know anything else that has that much leverage to stretch me as much as my family has.
Yeah.
That's
Amen.
Awesome.
I think
I would say,
go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I was going to say, Stephanie did the same kind of thing for me. I remember in the early days of our relationship, I was just expected to be kind of apart and doing things kind of differently. It's a weekend. I've got to go do these things over here. And it's like, no, we're going to do things together. And it just kind of became like the culture of the family. Like when there's something to be done, like let's focus on doing it together. I think it's a great thing.
It's definitely hard because it's way more logistically complicated to do things together than to divide and conquer. But when you divide, then you have so much less time together. Even if it's, even if it's in transit time, it still counts, and you can have fun with each other.
That's the best time I have right now. With our kids, like that's the best time that I have is if I'm taking that 35 minutes to bring you to practice, that's the only undivided time that you get of me and I get of you.
Yeah.
So I think it's so cool. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's super true. It's funny how that ends up happening. Like the car time is the best time, right? And it's like you kind of don't want to have that time in the car to drive, but it does stimulate a lot of conversation. And interesting, I kind of found this. I don't know if you found this with Camden or your older kids, but I feel like you can communicate with teenagers with music. Like, and you're in the car and you listen to music, and like something happens, something unlocks, right? Yeah. But what I was going to say that I noticed that you said was kind of some language that you use with each other when something is a big deal. Like I didn't think about it until I heard you say it, but like you kind of qualify your feelings and like how strongly you feel about something with each other by saying that like, hey, no, this is a big deal. And like, oh, it makes you perk your ears and listen like, okay, wait, I got to pay attention to this. Zach and I do something similar too. Like, I feel strongly about this. And that's kind of our thing. Like, do you feel strongly? Nah. Okay. Then it's something else. Or like, no, I do feel strongly. Like, oh shit, we gotta do it then. Do you guys have like little trigger or like phrases like that with each other that kind of ground you?
I'm sure we do. I off the top of my head, I don't know. Sonia, I'm sure her and the kids love to do. You ever seen this POV thing where you like?
Yes.
Yeah. So I've been the recipient of some of these POV reenactments.
What? I need to hear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put this out there. Eric is the loudest human in the morning ever. He walks loud. Like, I don't know who, anything. It's insane. I have my 9-year-old does it. I'll have to record it and send it to you. It is exceptional. Her and Camden tag team and do it together, and it is amazing. But, you know, like I wake up at 5:15 in the morning to work out, and like I get dressed in the dark because I don't want him to like wake up or turn on the lights, or like I brush my teeth like
sideways. You're very considerate.
Yeah, like tiptoe. I mean,
or just quiet.
Eric wakes up and it sounds like literally somebody's putting bombs off on my street. Like it's so everything is like crashing. I don't even know what he's crashing into. Everything's like crashing. Every light is on. It sounds like he's stomping, but he's really just walking. Like I don't understand it. So we do a lot of POV dad in the morning.
And it's just like a bull in a china shop.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Is it the big cough one? I feel like my kids have done this one.
Yeah,
dad in the morning.
Yeah, I somehow worked out of that phase. I don't know why I don't cough anymore, but literally, our oldest son, we went for a walk the other day, and he decided it was like a appropriate time to tell his college roommate that my dad used to wake up and he would like cough really loud.
And he does the best reenactment.
Yeah,
that's how I start every morning with Zach. Like that's how I open my eyes to the day. Is like just in the bathroom hawking a loogie.
I need to live. I need to breathe.
What is
so
that?
gross.
Why does that happen to you? Like I ask him, I'm like, what is wrong? Is everything okay?
Yeah.
I feel like you turn 40 and like you wake up like that every morning. I don't know. It's not nice. It's not a nice way to wake up.
Yeah.
On a more positive evolution, I feel like you're kind of alluding to the idea of when you guys first met. You know, some of the values and what's important to you is kind of like changed over that time period. And I think that's one of the most important things about a relationship is ideally we're all changing and growing. And I think it's tough to grow together always, right? To kind of stay in alignment. And oftentimes I find there's some sort of a trigger that kind of wakes you up and says, all right, I can't live like this anymore. I need to make some changes. Did you have a moment that something kind of snapped for you and you said, all right, I need to change a couple things in my life, and you guys kind of grew together through that, or she encouraged you to kind of grow out of a stage of your life?
Yeah, I think for me, what was unique about us is like I'm 12 years older than Sonia. So, but what was unique about us when we met is I was very immature and she was very mature. So like I was behaving like a 21-year-old when I was 33, and she was behaving like a 33-year-old. So, and then somewhere in between, right, was like this thing that, made it work for us. And she made me feel young, and I probably made her feel safe. And over time, though, I think what people don't tell you about relationships as marriage is like maybe one of you grows and the other doesn't.
Right.
Some people experience different types of growth. Sometimes they grow in different directions. And it doesn't make either of them wrong. It just makes it different. And I think one of the things that feels good about a marriage is when it's not different, right? Like that's the stuff that sharpens us or makes us better. But like what we really like is someone that's like us, that makes us feel, loved and cared for and accepted. And, it's free of judgment and unconditional love. So you got to find this balance of like candor, right? Like having literally someone that'll call you out, but then also like just let you make mistakes and let you fudge up and not make you a bad person because of it, and still be there for you. So, I continued to like try and grow this business, and she got out of the bar, and I was still going back because I was still trying to deal with the pressure of growing a business. And up until the point where she was raising two of our children, and still at certain times I would feel compelled to go let my hair down a little bit. And she was growing and maturing as a mother and as a woman, and I was still behaving like I was 22 years old. I just now had this family and this set of obligations and this bigger business. And while I made some progress, it didn't match my environment, right? Like I had grown in some aspects of my life, but really hadn't turned into the husband and father that I should have been. And I think that like the reality is there was a point in our relationship where like she either said it directly or indirectly and was like, this isn't going to work like this forever. And I just had to face like, what's going to be more painful, like growth and maturity or being without my family. And it wasn't even a consideration. Like when I put it that black and white, it was easy for me to say like, man, I'm not willing to give up my family. Cause I came from that. Like I came from, multiple divorces and was kind of always packing my stuff and leaving one home to go to the next apartment or the next school. And I just knew I didn't want that. And that's what that represented to me, is like, now my family and me will continue that process if I don't clean up my act. So, I mean, I like just snapped out of it and I was like, I'm done. And I started really investing in my health. I started working out more regularly. I gave up alcohol. I started going to church. I started really diving into reading and personal and professional development. And she was patient enough to allow me to work through that and continue to support me, but still, provided guardrails of what's acceptable and not acceptable behavior. And I think as a result, like it was probably a super scary time for both of us to imagine what it would be like to not be together. But for me, I can say personally is that she was the first person that never quit on me. And as a result, like the relationship we have today is significantly stronger. And I think, I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I think her witnessing that development on my part probably increased or developed some admiration for me that I can sense when she looks at me. She sees who I am today, but I think really what she respects about me is like what I had to go through to get through to today. 'Cause without that context, it's like, I'm not, anything special. I'm just a better version of what I was 18 years ago. And like, that's hard. It is challenging to just continuously put, one foot in front of the other and break bad habits and, give up limiting beliefs. And I think for me, as I reflect back on our relationship, there was a pivotal marked moment in time where I just knew I couldn't continue to enjoy the benefits of having the family that we had built together and not give up some unproductive behavior.
Oh, that is so real. I think especially being in a very male dominated industry, like real estate investing, right? I've talked to a lot of guys who are like, I really want my wife or my spouse to admire me. Like I want that adoration from them. And like, they kind of expect that from the get-go. But I'll tell you, from my perspective, there's nothing more admirable than seeing my significant other face their demons and choose differently. Like, I feel like I had that same experience with Zach and like saw him face it and then choose different than the generations before, or to, break a cycle in himself. Like, there's nothing better. Like, follow that guy over the edge of a cliff, right?
100%.
If I had to.
100%.
It's so powerful.
The funny thing is that as much as we would like the other guys who she actually fell in love with, though, it was the older, but as you grow, your expectations of your partner may grow. And there was something about my toxic behavior that was appealing to her when she was 21, and at 27, it was old news. It was, you know what I mean? So like, it feels counterintuitive. Like, am I changing? Are they changing? Are we both changing? So that's what's difficult is like, I think, I could have made the excuses like, well, you knew what you signed up for. Like, I'm no different than the guy that you married. And like, yeah, that's the problem.
No.
Right. So I think it would be easy for, people in our situation to say, well, you got to deal with it, or that's the way it is, or that's who I was when you married me and you need to accept me and don't be judgy or whatever. But, for whatever reason, that wasn't our path. And, somehow we've continued to, I think a lot of us witness firsthand how relationships sort of weaken over time.
Yes.
Like the natural sort of byproduct. I think, and then I'll shut up so you can talk. But thankfully what happened is our children, like each year over the course of the last 12 to almost 20 years, our children and having another child has introduced another opportunity and sort of like big reason for us to continue to grow, right? Because like caring for a toddler when you're 21 is different than caring for a toddler when you're 30. Being a parent to a 13-year-old girl is different than being a parent to a 4-year-old boy. So we have this embedded sort of forced personal development process inside of our family that's called Camden, Maya, Lily, Olivia, Sophia, and Eric Jr. So I think our children have been a blessing for us that has helped us grow and forced us to strengthen our relationship as husband and wife.
Yeah. Sonia, I'd love to hear your perspective there too, and what you're the most proud of.
It's kind of like what you said. I think seeing all of the phases and stages Eric went through to get to who he is today. Like, I fell in love with the person I met 17, 18 years ago, but never loved that person as much as I do love the person he is today. You know what I mean? You both grow and evolve and you go through those things together. And you do, like, I think you said it correctly, like, you don't always grow together. And I don't think that we did. I think we both grew sometimes in different directions, but our paths always ended up meeting. And then we just continue to grow in our own path that end up coming together. So it works out for us in that sense that, you know, if he's going through something, I know that he'll come out of it, and I know I can support him, and I know that it's just a hurdle that we can overcome. And I think vice versa. When you just go through all different kinds of like events together, nothing seems to really rattle you anymore. So I don't think there's really anything that him and I could go through that we can't accomplish or overcome together.
So like, it's funny, we're done having children as of Eric Jr., right? So Sonia's way of forcing our hand to continue our personal development journey was to opt into working together. So there's this whole different dynamic now that, like, you know, I used to go home and be like, okay, no more real estate questions for the day.
Nope.
Not anymore.
Nope. Like, it could be 8:47. My phone's on the other side of the room, and all of a sudden she wants to know, you know, how to navigate a mortgage commitment. And it has required me to extend my level of patience, because it's like a whole different high stakes game, right? It's like this new employee that I care a whole lot about, that I need to respond a certain way. And it's been a very cute and cool little way for us to spice things up. And working together is completely, you get used to like managing 6 kids. You're like, this will be a breeze. And like, it's not hard. It's just different. And there is a lot of really like cool things that we learn about each other. And I find out about like her communication style, or how well she just cares so deeply for the people that she works with. And like, my first instinct was like, dude, you're going to have a super emotional experience if you like get so attached to these people. And then I was like, so what?
And I really do, guys. Like,
but that's her thing. Like, she is just, I think people look to me for like, hey, tell me how to do this. And they love like the knowledge or whatever. Like, I just have like the benefit of a lot of information. She has limited information in real estate, but she just loves her way through a transaction. Right. And, that's been really cool for me to watch, is like the care and the sort of attention that she's given to our family for so long. She's now able to share some of that with like strangers, and what a blessing for them to have, her involved in that type of transaction that's so meaningful for them. And it's been really cool to watch.
That element of caring is so big and can get you so far. I mean, I think in all walks of life, people will feel it. I used to remember feeling like that imposter syndrome so my previous life, I was a PA, but I really cared. So I was not the smartest provider out there. Like, I hate to say it, there was no way I was close to the smart, but people would see how much I cared and they'd want to come to me, and I'd have all this like additional pressure of like, dude, I am not the smartest one in the room. Why are you coming to me? Like, why? But people knew that you cared and will go that extra mile for them. And I think it's going to serve you so well moving forward.
It's funny when you just said PA, I was reminded, I did not do a good job of getting you a funny story or a video about Sonia, but your PA thing just gave me a good idea. I wish I could go back and redo that.
Now's your moment. Now's your moment.
Wait, what's the funny?
What's the funny?
Yeah.
Let's start. What is a PA?
No.
So me as a PA, I was a physician assistant.
Hold on.
A physician assistant.
Okay, she got it right. Sonia has this. She uses cliche.
She what?
Like intermingles cliches. Like she has said to me firsthand, I should keep a journal of them, but she'll say like, you better watch it, Eric. You're skating on hot water.
But you know what I mean? It just comes out.
I do know what you mean. And it's still not right. So I was like, when you said PA first, I had to go, okay, good. Yeah. And then I was like, I wonder what my wife thinks that is.
That I know. Physician. Just
you had to dig a little deep there. It didn't come right away to you. You might have thought public announcer or something.
I've always wanted to be a public announcer.
We have 6
Okay,
kids.
all right, never mind.
Go to the doctors all the time.
The blessing in what you said there is it reminded me of something that's pretty funny about what she does, and sometimes she misses the mark on those cliches, and it is really, really awesome to hear when it happens.
But do they make you laugh? Do they make you laugh?
It makes me laugh.
Does it bring you joy?
Yes, lots.
Then you're welcome.
Yeah.
I think everybody in my family has a notes section on their iPhone of things that their dad has said. And Stephanie, I think, has one for me as well. Of like, I'm like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm writing that one down.
That's a scary thing.
I feel that way too about Ericisms.
You should just start tweeting them.
It's really funny when you compile them and you see them all at one time. It's a lot. But I think the one of the little key traits, maybe it's not even little, of being happily married is finding the ways to like have fun with each other and just tease. And like, that's how, I mean, I'll speak for Zach and I, that's how we kind of break the ice. Like I love pranking him and like just keeping him on his toes and not being serious and playing together. And so I think it's fun. We like to ask people when they come on, like what is something silly? And you always find these little interesting things how people play. And that's what Freud would be happy for us to let our hair down instead of going to the bar and drink it. Like, how do we play as a way of coping with all this pressure?
Yeah.
I think, when you were chatting a little bit earlier about Sonia, the paths and things that you guys and kind of coming back to each other and doing your own personal growth and then finding each other kind of again along the way. I don't think that's accidental. I think that's very intentional. And I think children and career development, let alone entrepreneurship, is a big pressure cooker. And you have to be really intentional with each other to kind of tie back your lives to each other and to do things together and to reach out to each other and reconnect in multiple different ways along the years. And like you said, Eric, like I think it changes. Like who you are in the beginning is you better be different 20 years in, and I would expect you to be different and have different thoughts about life and perspective about life and relationships 20 years in,
Yeah, I think it's easy. Would have been easy for Sonia as she was developing at a rapid pace to care for our family to look at me and be judgmental. Right? Like, because everybody moves at a different pace. They grow at a different pace. They start their growth journey at a different time. And I think that's one of the things that's unique about marriage is that, one person can be further along in their journey. It's easy to look back at the other person and have judgment about their inability to work out of a phase, or maybe they're holding on to a bad habit that the other person wishes they would have gotten rid of, months or years earlier. And, as I don't know why, but when I was sitting here, I just realized like our children are such a focal point of our relationship. And I think what is so powerful about our children is we had, Lily's 9.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say up until, I don't know, the when we talked about like when I turned the corner and really started 5-6 years ago, less, more. Let's say it was 5 to 6.
5, 6, yeah.
Right?
6, 7.
So, yeah. So we had Olivia would have just been 2 years old at that point, a year old. So I think what was so amazing about our children is like she was able to get out of our children what I wasn't able to give at that time, right? Like the love or the safety or the security that I wasn't given enough of. When Maya came along and Camden was going through, his high school journey, they were able to give to Sonia what I hadn't quite figured out yet. And, I would imagine for her, I literally just thought about that right now as we were talking through this, but I would imagine for her that creates a unique connection to those children. More so than already just being their mom and birthing them and raising them and all that other stuff.
They also don't lie to her when they're recording or not.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So
the meta glasses.
Well, yeah.
The meta glasses, yeah.
I have to ask them what's happening.
I was just prepping her to be more comfortable on camera. She just needed to act like it wasn't happening. Turns out she's a pro now. But, I think that's the dangerous thing is that that growth can happen at different paces and different times. And it's really important for you to communicate about that. And I think our children, again, were just such a blessing in our lives because it forced development. It allowed, even now, like this is the first weekend that our children will take us in 2 different directions. And the tough part will be is we love doing that together. I think she just texted me, I don't know, it was like 2 weeks ago. It was like, my favorite thing to do in this world is to watch our kids play basketball together. And we spent a lot of time doing that. Like
Eric's so calm and like quiet and watches so intently, and I'm just like loud and obnoxious and screaming.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how he like just sits there.
No, we mean at basketball, not at work.
Okay, yeah, both. And he just sits there and holds my hand, and I'm just like, that's amazing to me. Like, it's so loving. It's my favorite thing ever.
Well, plus I'm just trying to not get us kicked out of the jumps.
We both can't be over the top.
Yeah, he's the one that sent me the picture from Spooky Nook when he was standing in front of like one of the billboards there.
I've got all the pictures. I got all the pictures of your family on the billboard.
Yeah, yeah.
Which, I mean, is a unique journey for you guys. Like, there's the age gap on your children is big, and to be in each one of those different stages, and sometimes, when kids are close together, it's like, oh, we're in the infant stage, and then we're in this other stage. And you guys are having to be in different stages of business and different stages of childhood development. So how do you be there for a teen and an infant at the same time? And extra challenges for there, I'm sure.
Yeah, it just the funny thing about being a parent is like you just figure it out. Like something instinctually happens that we've not technically been trained for, but children have a great way of forcing us to grow up quickly. Because we have each of our own individual relationships with our kid, then we have our combined relationship with our children, and then we have our relationship and how we make decisions about our children. So there's you look at 6 kids, it's actually like, I don't know what let's say like 90 different dynamics that have to be pulled off. And I think what's wonderful about that is we both attach such a premium to family that it's the one thing that creates clarity and us to lock arms and say like, hey, there's family associated here. Put all the other stuff aside and figure it out. And then that carries over into life, right? Like our ability to be able to break up fights between multiple, girls fighting over Barbies gives us the ability to figure out how to get an appraiser, a lender, a buyer, and a seller on the same page, man. If you can do that stuff, like real estate actually seems
water
simple.
in the basement, whatever. Like that's nothing.
Yeah. So
these skills are interchangeable somehow. They really are.
We actually had, so just imagine what like a normal Tuesday looks like at our place, right? You have a 2.5-year-old boy who like headbutts for a living. He just loves to headbutt stuff and like jump off of things. He goes from being a basketball player to the Incredible Hulk and the like literally those two things happen at the same time, right? And you just got to be out of the way. And then we have a 22-year-old son who's like a very, like, he's just all put together, and he watches his nutrition, and he takes all his friends to church, and he's well put together. And then you got everything in between where like Maya does crossword puzzles and Lily does makeup, right? So there's just all this chaos going on. And we had one of our friends, older friends, who stayed over. And once, I don't know, Wednesday we came home and our dog wasn't moving. Like, remember Gracie like wouldn't move, and like she would drag her back legs? Well, it turns out our oldest son's buddy had like a 1/4 pound of weed that he brought to the house.
Oh.
And he wouldn't dare bring it in Mr. and Mr. Brewer's house. Like, he just knew he couldn't have it in the house. So he did the right thing. He hid it out under the pool. Like, we have a pool, an in-ground pool, and then there's like this deck where we store all the pool equipment and all that stuff. So he hid the weed out there, and the dog found and ate a 1/4 pound of weed. So just like, you got,
oh my God,
Incredible Hulk, you got makeup, you got crossword puzzle, you got 22-year-old son in the Bible study and a 5-on-5 game out in the driveway.
Me
and
crying.
Then, yeah, and then just like,
my dog is like, I think she's dying. I'm like sobbing.
she didn't, by the way. She
didn't, but I had to take her.
She had a
She
really
slept it off.
relaxing day. But like, you just like in that moment, you don't go, I don't feel like dealing with this. Like,
Yeah.
it had to get resolved, and you just go into, survival mode or whatever that's called. And 24 hours later, everybody was okay. And obviously that young man was scared to death, right? That something was going to happen. And it was because of his, irresponsible behavior. But that's just like an example of a random Wednesday. And we just kind of figure it out. And, then you carry that sort of experience and level of calm into real estate transactions. And I think it's a blessing for us that our ability to be able to grow and be there for our family makes us a sound, very calm place for people to experience real estate.
Yeah, I think it is so interchangeable, the skills that you learn at home to have a successful family dynamics, a successful spousal relationship, to what that looks like for leadership in the workplace, or like building something in the workplace. It's all building, it's all communication, it's all people, and coming from a place of wanting to do something impactful. If you were to give, because you guys are 20 plus years into business / nearly 20 years together, what advice would you give? Like maybe some of the hard lessons that you've learned on either side of the equation, the work side or the personal side. What advice would you give to the flowering leader at work, or the newlywed couple that's building something together? What do you feel has been important lessons that you've learned that you would give a head start to somebody listening to this?
I think just not to be afraid to fail and to like fall apart, because there are times and phases and stages that you go through and you fall apart, and things are messy and hard, and you don't really know how you're going to get out of it or survive it or make it to the next day, but you figure it out and you do. And it's really funny. I traveled with our 5 kids, our 11 to 2-year-old. I took all 5 of them on a plane and went to Florida for 4 days recently.
Not hard at all.
No, and honestly, to me, no. But we counted on the way there, and I took a red eye home too. So if you want to talk about crazy, like super crazy, but I flew there, and the girls and I counted 37 people that stopped me to say, "You're by yourself with them? You're doing this alone? You're a warrior. Praises." But in my mind, I'm thinking like, what are they talking about? Like, this is normal to me. You know what I mean? Because like you go through things, and at one point having 2 kids was hard. I remember when Lily was born, I would tell Eric, I'm like, oh my God, am I going to be able to do this? Like, the baby's crying. I have the top. And now like navigating airports with 5 kids is like nothing. Right. So you have to fail, and you have to mess up, and you have to make the mistakes to get to the point where you're like, oh, I can do anything. I mean, I'm very confident in like who I am now, that I like tell them all the time. I'm like, yeah, I got it. I can do anything. It's fine. Like, I'm not worried about it. So I just think that as long as you're okay with the results maybe not being what you envision, you can get through anything. You can do anything.
What about you, Eric?
I think I get this question in different formats often, especially if I'm at like a CG Select event and there's a 22-year-old real estate investor. And the reason I pause and I give it so much consideration is that 20 years has passed since I started. So the advice that feels most real to me right now is heavily influenced by my current set of circumstances.
Right.
So like, I think it's hard and it requires some additional thought to go back and say, because it might be like, well, don't do this and don't do that because I did it and I messed up. But that was also part of the life that I get to live today. So the funniest thing was I was having that conversation with a 22-year-old young man at CG Select, and I said, it's kind of like Back to the Future. And he goes, huh?
No, you don't want to change it, right? You want to make the mistakes.
But
yeah.
Just to put a pin in how big the experience and age difference is, he didn't know what I meant.
No.
Oh man.
He never saw Back to the Future. So
that hurts a little.
Once I figured that out, I was like, God, I'm 100,000 years old. But I said, like, here's the movie, right? Like the guy goes back and he breaks up this fight between this guy and his dad. And as a result, he runs the risk of never being born, which would suck, right? So I think, if I'm giving the advice to somebody that's just getting started and trying to find like the connection between family and business, is that there shouldn't be too big of a difference between the way that we're known at work and the way that we're known at home. And this thing of like work-life balance is this like beach ball that's like passed around and people try and wrestle with it or see it from different perspectives. And I think we all, hold ourselves to a high standard, and we feel bad when we're not at home. And then maybe we feel bad when we're not at the office, and we're trying to balance these obligations. And I'll never forget, somebody asked me a similar question on a podcast a couple years ago. And he was like, well, how do you turn off being this badass, like investor leader that you need to be at work when you get home? I just kind of thought for a second, and I was like, dude, I got to turn something off when I get home. So I feel like the advice that I would give was that there shouldn't be a big difference between the way that you make people feel at home and the way that you, like, if you got to be a badass at work, but you care enough the people at home to turn it off and be caring and compassionate and a better listener, like, I don't think you're doing actually a great job at work. Right? And if you're too much of a pushover at home, maybe you should bring some leadership home and create a little bit more account. And that's what would happen for me, right? Is I would exhaust all of my leadership and accountability at home, that a lot of times I would just be, like non-existent at home. Like I would just, whatever happens, happens. I don't want to make any decisions. Like I think I've literally heard myself say, where like Sonia was, hey, do you want to go meet the neighbors? Like, no, I got to be nice to people all day. I don't want to talk to anybody. Or, like, hey, I need, you to have a conversation with Lily. I was like, I set expectations and make decisions all day. I don't want to make any decisions when I get home. And I don't think it should be that way. I think we should be who we are at home and at work. And there shouldn't be this two different versions of who you are. So if you feel like you're behaving in a way at home that doesn't align with who you are, unpack that a little bit. Like, there doesn't have to be a season of sacrifice that test the strength of your relationships at home. Like, find balance earlier. And I think like what I would say to boil it down would be like, make sure that the people at work should say the same things about you that the people at home do. And the wake up for me is that I was doing a better job at different times in my career, my life at home. And I had to love people a little bit better at work. And then there was times where Sonia's pointed out to me, she'll say, well, is that like the way I would talk to her? Is that how you would talk to an employee? And I would say, I don't know. What do you mean? She goes, I think you would be a little bit more patient with them. I deserve the same level of patience. So I think it's just like anytime any one of those is there's too much variance, one of them's broken. We should be loving and understanding at work, and we should be driven and create some structure and some accountability at home. And neither of those should be too far out of alignment. And that's the advice that I would give.
I love it.
I think that's phenomenal advice, and really forces everyone to self-reflect on who you are at work versus who you are at home, and where you're off kilter.
Yeah, the race is long. We were just talking about that. Was it last night or this morning? I don't. It all kind of blends together. But just that idea of there are days where sometimes I feel guilty that I'm coming home and I'm like, I don't have it in. My son wanted to do this super. You got to get a perfect dab. I'm like, dude, we tried 3 times. I'm done. I'm not doing the 17 times.
Yeah.
I'm shot. I don't know what it is about my emotional state right now, but it has been burned out and there ain't much left. It's just like little things like that. But, he didn't deserve that, right? He's been waiting for me patiently 14 hours for me to get home. And now that's what's left of you. Like, I should go dab him up now.
Yeah.
Perfect, Dev.
Yeah.
Well, I'll stay there till we get it, man. I'll stay till it echoes.
Yeah.
I think making decisions is a really big one. I think it was some of the things we've talked about throughout this podcast, right? The idea of you make a decision and the impact and changes that come from it. Like parenthood is one. Like, we talked about not always growing together, but you make the decision to have a kid. Somebody's got to change. If you don't have any kids around and all of a sudden you've got one, like somebody's got to grow. And if we're not growing together, it's forcing, just that growth on one person. Like, I was who I was. And so I think a lot of these decisions, starting a new business, starting a side hustle and those sort of things, what's the framework that you guys have to make sure that you're on the same page in making that decision moving forward? Like, this is going to change our lives one way or another. Are we on the same page? Or do we even talk about it? Or do you just have the freedom to go?
Yeah, I think we've done a better job of checking in. And one of the things, so I think our framework is just continuous and uninhibited, constant communication. Like, one, we literally don't have time to guess.
Yeah.
Like, you just don't.
What a blessing. What a blessing too, right?
Yeah. It's just, so we don't, one thing that would cause friction in our relationship early on is I was very let's talk it out. I want resolution here. I'm not going to bed not knowing what's going on. And Sonia would need space and time and reflection. And I think I've gotten a little bit better with patience and understanding that she needs to unpack things a little bit and diagnose how she's feeling. And she's gotten better at also trusting me enough to speak her mind. And as a result, the speed of our communication has changed quite a bit and improved. So I think our framework is we just say what's on our mind and trust each other to receive it. And if it's not in alignment with what she wants, she tells me. And if something happens or there's a decision that's made that I have questions about, I just ask. And we just work through disagreement and conflict, I think, quicker and better than certainly than we did before. But and that allowed, we just literally don't have grudges. Things happen and she might do something that upsets me, or I'm a little insensitive or miss something that was important to her. And we just talk about it and get back to a place of understanding. And I go, okay, now I know better what she wants from me. And I think our framework is just uninhibited communication and no judgment. But I don't know. I mean,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
Lots of communication and the comfort of telling each other how you actually feel and not suppressing that and hoping that that feeling goes away or that the feeling will change. So my needing time to process is because I don't ever want to say, I believe in the strength of words. So I don't ever want to say anything that I would regret or that will, hurt somebody and because you can't ever take that away. So even if you forgive and you move forward from it, you'll always remember that came out of my mouth. So it's really important to me to take a minute and be able to say what I need to say in a healthy fashion. And I think that I've gotten better at being able to do that at a quicker pace, because I know that Eric would rather have that communication, right? Everything for him is like right now, which is great. But I don't always, I'm a planner. So, you know, you just kind of work with each other's needs and over communicate.
What I really appreciate about both you guys and this discussion on the podcast is that it didn't turn into like the business accolades and the numbers and the transaction volume and the blah blah blah. It was all about the accolades at home and what makes the foundation successful and sustainable, so that you can have this stamina to go build things together and potentially separately, and then come back together at home. And I really appreciate that. I think that it's really important to see behind closed doors a little bit on how these successful businesses, like what they're built on, if that makes sense. So I really appreciate both of your honesty and your openness to chat about that journey that you've been on together.
Yeah, it's funny when you said the word home, like, I don't know, I felt something when you said that. And I think what that is like, for me, any accolade or accomplishment here has always been about home.
Yeah.
Right. So like whatever I was doing here to compete or win against whatever the market or another company or whatever was only because I wanted to set a standard at home, or to walk in the door and be admired, at home. And everything I try and do for our people here is so that their home will improve. Like the most valuable thing about our work is how it affects our home.
Yes.
And I think the quicker you can realize that, it adds some meaning to the work that we do. Because when it gets really hard, and we won't want to continue, or we want to just quit, the only thing that'll sort of, in my experience, give us the fuel to continue is home. So like, it was just funny when you said that. I was like, yeah, that's it. It's always about home. We're just not always at home. So I just try and do everything at the office and wherever I am that honors home and builds home and improves home. And I think as long as we continue, at least in our family, to run our decisions and our behaviors through that filter, we just live with the consequences.
Then you can live with the consequences.
Yeah.
Like Sonia said, like you kind of make friends with the monster under your bed, which is potential failure, right? Yeah. And then it's going to be okay because you've built it with home in mind, and with home as your safe place and the thing that you didn't negotiate, then it's okay, right? There'll be another day. You got a warrior next to you that's going to fight with you, and your kids are still there, and you still have each other, and there's still a ton of love, and you'll work it out, right? Like the next thing will happen.
That's it.
Yeah. Zach, we want to close us out? You want to wrap us up?
That's it. I mean, that was awesome. I mean, thank you guys so much for coming on. I mean, such a lot of respect for you as a business owner and what you've developed, but even more respect of like who you are as a family and as a couple. And I think you guys have dropped some great words of wisdom for the audience today. I know I've learned about you guys and I'm growing through it. And so until next time, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you so much.